I've always been fascinated at the brand marketing role that your Angus brand has played in consumer markets in Australia in the past 10, 15 years. Do you want to tell me some of the backstory to that?
Well, I think the Angus brand, the Angus name was developed over many decades, really, from Angus breeders globally as well as Australia, and I think all the way through that, Angus has been synonymous with high meat quality, and there's been a strong focus on the quality of Angus beef and consumer satisfaction, and that's really what the whole Angus name has been built on, right back from the very early days in Scotland when Angus was developed as a beef eating breed versus other breeds of cattle were developed for other things, for milk production or for draft use on farms, etc. Whereas Angus has been always very strongly focused on eating quality. That breed has adapted into Australia very well. The breed has gradually grown in size, such that now it's the most numerous registered cattle breed, and certainly at the commercial level as well, I believe, these days in southern parts of Australia. And that's been due to the strong demand for Angus beef, largely from our export partners. So countries like Japan, Korea, other countries throughout the world, including the United States, have exported high quality Angus beef out of Australia, and that's certainly driven that demand for beef, and over time developed the reputation of Angus being a high quality beef product.
So do you think the success of Angus is down to kind of a conscious brand marketing, or just down to the genetic traits of the breed? And I recall growing up in Australia, Hereford would have seemed to me to have been the strongest cattle breed in the country. And I don't want to defame my friends and Hereford breeders, but it would seem that's no longer the case.
Well, I think we've got a number of breeds that are well adapted to the temperate Australian conditions. The British bred cattle, including Herefords and Angus and Shorthorn, of all breeds that can perform well under Australian conditions, southern Australia. But it's really the thing that's made Angus, I suppose, grow at the expense of maybe some of those other breeds has been the market demand for Angus. And as I said, mainly the export-driven market demand by the lot feeders. And if you go into most feedlots in southern Australia, you'll see either straight bred Angus in some cases, or at least a high degree of Angus content. And that's been basically because the customers, the consumers, in this case the export consumers, have put a requirement on that product to have Angus content. So I think that market demand has then been captured by our breeders. So the Angus breeders throughout Australia have basically taken that demand and continued to evolve the breed to meet those requirements for high quality beef. So traits like improved marbling performance and meat tenderness, those sorts of things are high on the priority list for Angus breeders when they're selecting their genetics.
I recall, I don't know what McDonald's is doing right now, but I recall 12 months ago there were ads for Angus burgers, McBurgers or whatever they were called. That obviously didn't do any damage to your brand at all in terms of perceptions of quality.
Well, it's been an excellent thing that the alliance with McDonald's, which continues today. McDonald's continue to launch new products all the time, of course, for their customers. And the latest launch just in the last few days has been for a new Angus product. The McDonald's Angus products have always been at the top end of their range. So you can go into the store and you can buy an average burger, if you like, or you can buy the top end range burger, which will be an Angus burger. So I think it's certainly assisted in a number of ways. It's assisted getting the Angus name out there in the general community. It's been synonymous with something a little bit better, a little bit extra quality. And fortunately our alliance with McDonald's is maintained that higher quality end. Of course, it's had a great impact also at the commercial level, because that's actually driven a premium or demand for Angus cattle at the commercial level. So, for example, the sorts of animals that go into the hamburger market are not our prime cattle, but there are the cuts of meat and the cattle that may be not necessarily going to hit the prime markets, but it's deriving a premium for those as well. So again, just reinforces that premium for Angus throughout the whole supply chain. You'd have to say that certainly in North America, the Angus story has been very successful. That's partly also brand driven through certified Angus beef, and that would, that would be clearly the largest and most successful branded product in the world. Beef branded product, certified Angus beef. It's continuing to grow, and that's actually driven a strong demand for, in that case, black-hided cattle, mainly Angus, but not just Angus in the USA. So the certified Angus beef brand. So we've seen also, similar to Australia, Angus become the predominant breed for use in straight breeding or crossbreeding in the United States.
What's ahead? Any exciting events on? Any projects, conferences, breakthroughs in the pipeline?
So Angus Australia does a number of things. Foremost, Angus Australia is an innovation company. So we provide innovative services to our members to help them breed better cattle, essentially. And there's a lot of exciting work going on in the DNA area, the genomics, what we call the genomics area in beef production, integrating our increased knowledge of biology and genetics into our selection processes. So we're doing a lot of work in that area where I suppose at the Breed Society level we're on about recording performance of cattle and trying to relate that to their genetic makeup. So we're continuing to push forward the boundaries there, working with partners in Australia, it's research scientists in Australia, but also internationally in that area. So Angus Australia does a lot of work with our members, providing them with educational material on how to best use technologies, breeding technologies, etc. And in particular, we have a strong focus on our youth. So we have a very strong youth program that we provide international scholarships for some of our young people involved in the beef industry, not just Angus. It's driven by Angus, but we're quite open to involvement in our youth program. And of course our marketing and communication, so a strong focus these days on having an up-to-date website with good technical content in there and a single spot where commercial bull buyers can access electronic sale catalogues, those sorts of things, and just the general message of getting the word out there about the benefits of using Angus cattle.